Hi, this is Suzie on my YouTube channel Standing Firm. Thank you very much for joining me today as we're looking at the temptation of Jesus from Matthew chapter 4. And it's an interesting one that the chapter starts with the word then. So immediately we need to kind of just check back what happened at the end of chapter 3. So in chapter 3 we had the baptism of Jesus, and it ends with these amazing words of confirmation of Jesus' identity and his calling, that he is God's son, that God is well pleased with him. And there's a time delay between those words and the tempting starting. And that time delay is 40 days of fasting. And the Bible just spells it out. At this point, Jesus is hungry. He's hungry. And that is the moment that the devil steps onto the scene. He knows that Jesus is weak. He knows that Jesus is tired. At this point, he has very little left in him to fight, and so the devil comes thinking he's got an easy battle on his hands. And we've been looking at the story of Gideon at my church over the last few weeks, and I got this passage where Gideon has taken his men into battle, and they've had an amazing victory, and they stop to get some food from other people in the villages, and they call on them to provide bread, and they refuse. And Gideon is fuming, he's angry, and he threatens them, and then carries out his threat to attack them with the thorny bushes from the desert. And I was like, why is this story in the Bible? What can we learn from this story? And I think we can learn from this story that when we are tired and when we are hungry, we are very susceptible to temptation and to sin, because at that point we can only think about our own needs, and so we are likely to lose our temper, we are likely to fall into an argument, we are likely to look to meet our need and not necessarily consider what God's best is for us. So Jesus is hungry for food, and so the devil comes to him and says, why don't you turn these stones into bread? And Jesus could have done that. Jesus knows he could have done that. And that's the thing about a temptation. We know that we can do the thing. We know that we can overpower this person. We know that we can shout. We know that we can steal that thing from the office or cheat on our tax return. We know we can do it. That's the whole point. He plants a seed in our head of something we could do that would meet a temporary need for us, that would satisfy the hunger, whether it's money, whether it's intimacy, whether it's gossiping about somebody and tearing them apart to make ourselves feel better. I put it forward in a not very attractive way, because let's be honest about what sin is and the kind of temptations that come to us, and they show us the darker side of ourselves. They show us our sinful nature, and Jesus has the means to defend and to resist the temptation, and that is the word of God. And so he replies to the devil saying, man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. And so how can we resist temptation when it comes? He will come, and he will tempt us when we are weak. So we need to be prepared, just as Jesus was prepared. We need to know the scriptures. We need to have an action plan. Who are we going to call? Who are we going to text? Are we going to physically leave a situation? Are we going to stop a conversation? Are we going to turn the television off? What are we going to do when that temptation comes so that we can resist just as Jesus resisted? So I hope that's an encouragement to you today. Let's learn about ourselves, recognise that when we're tired, when we're cranky, these are times when we are weak and we are more likely to fall into temptation, and let's prepare ourselves so that we have a battle plan and a strategy in place. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you will join me again on Standing Firm. Thank you.